In this video, we're going to discuss the steps of the water cycle. At the end of the video, you should be able to explain how water travels from the clouds down to Earth and back up again using the proper terminology, some of which you can see here. You're going to be able to explain what are some ways that humans are affecting this cycle and how that's affecting the environment that we live in. To complete these notes, you are going to need 6 different colored writing instruments. Please take a minute right now to go grab any colored pencils or crayons you would like to use to complete these notes. Water is the most common substance in all living things. As humans, we are made up of 70% of water, jellyfish 95%. 3/4 of the earth is covered in water. It's necessary for many biological functions, such as photosynthesis, digestion, and cellular respiration. Remember, photosynthesis is what happens in plants. And digestion and cellular respiration happens in animals and plants. You're going to find out more about these processes next year in biology. The ocean covers 3/4 of the earth. It contains 97% of the earth's water, and 80% of the water in the water cycle enters the atmosphere through evaporation from the ocean, and 52% of all precipitation falls into the ocean. Without the ocean, our water cycle would not work. As humans, we are affecting water quality. Okay, and the main thing that affects this water quality is fertilizer. The 2 key elements in fertilizer that plants need to grow is nitrogen and phosphorus. As the water runs along the ground, think about walking outside after a big rainstorm. You're going to see water traveling along the ground. That traveling along the ground is called runoff. What happens is it picks up the nitrogen and phosphorus from fertilizer, and this nitrogen and phosphorus becomes part of lakes and streams. When this happens, we have something called eutrophication. This is the over-fertilization of lakes and streams. This causes too little oxygen, so a loss of oxygen. What happens is things that need nitrogen and phosphorus, such as algae, grows so much. It grows so much the whole lake tends to become more algae than actually water. And when the algae is growing, algae uses O2. And because of this, fish and other things that live, other water animals, do not have enough oxygen. And not having enough oxygen means that fish and wildlife die. So we need to be careful. Fertilizer is really important to farmers and really important to how we grow our plants, and we are able to feed ourselves, but too much fertilizer can cause the destruction of lakes and kill off different animals and plants that live there. Alright, looking at the water cycle. Our first step in the water cycle is precipitation. Water vapor, which is in clouds, cools. Gravity pulls the water from the sky, and falls from the sky in the form of rain, sleet, and snow. So right now, I'd like you to first off write the stuff in the box about precipitation. And then find the arrow on your notes that would be precipitation. And please color that arrow in whatever color you would like. And then outline the box in that same color. So you know that that precipitation should be an arrow coming out of the sky, what looks like rain. That precipitation falling to the ground is this step in the picture. So once the rain falls, we now have what's called runoff. Snow melts on the surface of the earth. It picks up minerals in soil. Remember, it picks up things in fertilizer as well. It forms channels, streams, rivers, and eventually reaches an ocean or a lake. Okay? This can happen along the surface. It can happen coming off of mountains. Okay, right now I'd like you to color in the arrow that shows runoff on your diagram, and please outline the runoff box in that same color so you know that they match together. So now we have a bunch of water running along the ground, and what eventually happens is this water infiltrates or goes into the ground. The water is absorbed. Think about how after a big rainstorm there's a puddle outside, and then all of a sudden that puddle disappears. Where does the water go? A lot of it is absorbed into the ground. It can form underground lakes, and it is the groundwater table is what this is called. This is where most of the fresh water is. If you have a well at home and you are on city water, you are pulling up water from this underground reservoir. Please take a new color, color in the arrows in the picture showing infiltration, and please outline the infiltration box in the same color that you drew the arrow. There is going to be 2 arrows that you need to color in. In our next step, transpiration. Trees taking the water from the ground. Water is evaporated from the leaves of the plants, and this helps plants take in more water. So this is something that happens during photosynthesis. Your diagram doesn't have a separate spot for transpiration, so please aim your own arrow. Maybe draw on a tree to help you remember. It's always easier to draw Christmas trees. And remember that this is coming from the trees. Don't forget to outline the box in the color that you did for transpiration. In evaporation, the heat from the sun converts the water into a gas. This is called water vapor. And the water travels up into the air. This happens from the ocean. This happens from lakes, rivers, and just the soil. This is the other thing that happens to that puddle that's there after a rainstorm. A lot of it evaporates up. So please color in the evaporation box, or arrow, and outline the evaporation box. So now we've gone from gas to liquid, down into the ground, and we're going back up into the air. Our last step to get back into precipitation is condensation. When we get high up in the atmosphere, the water becomes cold. The water vapor changes back to water. If it's really, really cold, such in the case of snow, then it's going to change into a solid form of ice. And what happens is it forms into clouds. Your clouds is simply water vapor. Think about steam when you get out of a shower. Okay? When you get out of the shower and your bathroom's all filled up with steam, these are clouds. That's all clouds are, is water vapor. And when clouds get too heavy, there's too much water vapor, the process repeats again, and rain falls down from the sky, or snow or sleet, and we repeat the process. Please make sure you have the condensation box outlined in your last color, and please make sure you have the condensation arrow colored in your water cycle. At this point, you should know the 6 steps of the water cycle: precipitation, runoff, infiltration, transpiration, evaporation, and condensation. You should be able to look at the diagram and talk your way through how water changes from one form to the other.